You're at a point in your life where you're starting to get concerned about your age affecting whether or not you can have your manifestation. This video is for you. Hey legends, this is I Am Manifestation. I'm your conscious manifestation coach, Cerise, and I help you get out of your own way so you can manifest your version of an awesome fucking life. Hopefully I remember all the points that I made in the last attempt of recording this video. I know that most of the people who currently follow me at the time of recording this video on YouTube are guys. So I am going to try and keep this general, but I also know that a lot of women are going to be drawn to this video because of the fear mongering that's out there about biological clocks ticking and things like that. And I have had these conversations with a few of my clients, as well as people popping up on my live stream talking about this topic, which is why I'm making this video today. So these are definitely things that have popped into my mind as someone who's in my late 30s. And, you know, there may be older people on here going, late 30s is still a baby. I agree. I certainly don't feel what I thought late 30s would feel like when I was younger. And I say this to people who are just hitting 30 and think they're old as well. However, that doesn't change the fact that there's a lot of information out there fear-mongering people about their age, particularly women when it comes to biological clocks ticking, right? Like I said before. Again, I'm going to try and keep this as general as possible because there are other things that you can apply age to in terms of freaking out and thinking you've run out of time to be able to accomplish things or manifest things or achieve things, right? Like changing careers, maybe living what has been a very conventional life for a long time and then getting to, you know, your midlife age range or even later and thinking, is it too late to change? Like maybe this is just how my life is now. No, it's not. You can change it. It's not too late. So to try and keep this video short and concise, I'm going to just give examples of ways that I've shifted my mindset around things that age has kind of popped up into my mind and made me think like, should I be doing this? You can also apply this to certain things like things that you've invested a lot in and don't want to abandon for that reason alone, but they don't feel good, which is referred to as the sunk cost fallacy. Yeah, sorry, I always go to say sunken cost fallacy, sunk cost fallacy. Just bring up the definition of that if it's not something that you've heard of before. The phenomenon whereby a person is reluctant to abandon a strategy or course of action because they have invested heavily in it, even when it is clear that abandonment would be more beneficial. So you can relate this to business decisions, you can relate this to relationships, friendships, even familial, right? Jobs. I have done it in a few of those areas, stuck around longer than I should have. And not because I couldn't change those circumstances, but because those things were not in line with my end goal. So remember, I always say, as long as you're thinking in line with your end goal, past the point of receiving it or manifesting it, whatever, a point where the novelty phase has already worn off and it's just part of your normal everyday life, that is living from the end. Living from the end is not the point of receiving, right? So as long as you're living from that state, you can trust that the things that are happening in the middle are part of that end goal, are part of the most efficient route to that end goal. And also when something doesn't feel good, it's because it's not part of the most efficient route to that end goal. And when it feels good to change your mind about something or the idea of doing something different, even if you have invested a lot of time and energy into the thing you've been doing, and I'm going to give an example of this in a moment, it is part of the end goal to walk away from what doesn't feel good and to follow what does. Again, doing your cheat codes will really help know the difference between what is things like butterflies, for example, or the difference between excitement, which butterflies kind of falls into the category of, and anxiety. They're two sides of the same coin, but they're also different. They're also steering you in different directions. And when you have things like hardships, heartbreaks, and traumas in your past, sometimes you misconstrue anxiousness that's trying to steer you away, anxiety that's trying to steer you away from something, with excitement, right? And that can steer you wrong. So that's why the cheat codes are also really important. So to give you a recent example of my own with sunk cost fallacy before I get more into the age related mindset shifts to make. This is a good announcement time, I suppose. I just announced this on my TikTok live stream that I did before recording this video. And the reception was really positive, which is awesome. But essentially, the solid self-concept course that I've been directing you all to sign up to the waitlist for in the description below and all my other videos, that course is no longer. I've changed course in creating the course because it just wasn't feeling good. And I'm going to explain in a separate video that I'll release as like a bonus video. I'm not replacing the educational video for the week or anything, just as an additional one that'll explain how I got to the point of changing my mind, why, how I think it's a beneficial change and all of that later this week or next week. But to give you a brief idea, I came up with the idea for the Solid Self-Concept course probably almost 2 years ago now. People were asking for it because I was talking a lot about self-concept alone, not with my other cheat codes. And my understanding of self-concept was different at that time. So it started off, the idea was just going to be a workshop. And then I went through the things that I went through over the last year and a half, 2 years really, like as that idea was conceptualized, I started kind of going through the shit part of, falling into my burnout, working my way like through processing the things that came with that, the lowness in my mental state and anxiety and the physical unwellness that I was also experiencing with the mental unwellness that I've talked about in other videos. So I won't go into that too much here. And then my understanding of self-concept evolved. And as it evolved, the workshop became a course, and then the course kept expanding. But then I also was like always wanting to, as I was, typing up the modules, creating the layout of the course, wanting to incorporate in my other cheat codes because they've worked together synergistically, and that's where I'm at with my practice at the moment. And I know that they're all really important, which is why they're all cheat codes. It's not self-concept as a cheat code, and then the other two things are just other things I talk about, right? They're all cheat codes. But then I was like, but it's a self-concept course. And it was just getting to the point where it was going to be too much information. It was going to be too overwhelming. And it wasn't fun for me anymore creating it either. It wasn't in a flow. I was finding I was sitting in front of my computer trying to force it. And I felt more motivated when I kind of found I was coming out of that burnout feeling, just because I had the energy, but I wasn't enjoying it. And I felt like I was staring at the screen blankly and just not getting anywhere with it. Or like I was, but I just felt like I was spending hours chipping away at it. And I didn't feel like at the end of those several hours that I was making much of a dent. I was excited about it in ways, but like that was coming from wanting to help people, the excitement of helping people to get to the point where I'm at and preventing people from going through the shitty parts of that experience that I went through, help you guys not learn the hard way. That was the exciting part for me. But the course itself was not exciting. And the idea that it was becoming so much that it was going to be overwhelming for everyone, but also because it was becoming so much, the cost was increasing in my mind more and more. And that wasn't what, like, it's not that I don't want to make money from my business, I do, but I want to have things available to people that haven't, say, manifested the kind of money that they want yet, or haven't changed their mindset around money enough to justify a purchase like that to themselves, right? Because it was getting into the like few hundreds by this point. I want them to still have access to my teachings and my guidance, even if it's not one-to-one, still being able to get some guidance from me and help and support and everything along the way, and provide things for you guys to be able to also essentially coach yourself so that you're not reliant on me forever. That's not the kind of coach I am. I'm not trying to make you reliant on me forever. So again, I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. I'll do it in another video, but essentially I started then seeing all of these things like memberships popping up in front of me. And I was ignoring it initially because I was like, that's not something to think about right now. I've got the self-concept course to work on. That's what I've told people I'm doing. Just the other day, it was like Cheat Code Academy, all the cheat codes in a membership where there is community and affordability and still able to get guidance from me directly in a way that's almost like a payment plan, but it's also a way that people aren't going to get overwhelmed by the coursework, because it's not just a lump sum dumped in their lap there. And then knowing where a lot of you are coming from, wanting to devour all the content straight away, but then getting into sort of paralysis of analysis, right? So it's now the Cheat Code Academy membership. It's a year-long academy, but you can cancel at any time. I'm honoring the 50% off with the waitlist. We're on the Solid Self-Concept waitlist. You're already automatically on the membership waitlist for Cheat Code Academy. It's in Australian dollars, AUD, and it's less than a lot of the memberships I've seen out there. And I just know for a fact that I'm further along, not to like put myself up on a pedestal, but there's people still teaching the solely working on the mindset thing that led to my burnout. in their memberships that they're charging a lot more for, and in USD. When I made that decision, when I entertained the idea of a membership, I got excited again. I felt like a weight was lifted, and I literally sat on my computer all day in complete flow, not trying to do anything, and set up the membership pretty much almost completely in one day. So now it's just a matter of deciding when I'm going to launch and how many more people I would like to be on my wait list before I do that. So if you're interested, that's below. Okay, so getting into the mindset shifts to help you remove the pressure that you're putting on yourself around your age in relation to your manifestation. Something that I like to do, and I do talk about not investigating and asking the questions and looking for evidence and things like that, but often that's because you're doing it from a place of fear. So I want you to do your nervous system regulation, obviously, and then I would like for you to, if you feel comfortable with the idea, look up examples of people your age and older doing the things that you're thinking your age could be a barrier to, or could soon be a barrier to if you get to a certain age, right? And you will see examples of that. Whether that's people changing careers or having babies later in life or leaving a job after 20 years. I work with someone currently who was in his first job, which was his only job he had before working with me. So he's a middle-aged gentleman for 20 years. I cannot fucking imagine. But I can also imagine that it would be very scary, the idea of working somewhere for so long that you're familiar with, even though he was probably, and he said it, miserable there for fucking years and years before moving. And the only reason he moved was because my current boss headhunted him. They were competitors at different larger agencies before, and he took them on board. And there are examples of this. I saw a video recently on TikTok when I was scrolling, and look, it wasn't the most positive of stories in the sense that the girl who was telling it was, if you're familiar with TikTok, there's a thing called stitching videos where someone you can stitch all sorts of different types of videos, but oftentimes people come on and they're like, tell me a story about how something like this happened in your life and stitch this video. And this girl comes on and she was like, tell me about some funny trauma that you've experienced. Stitch this video. I'll go first. And she told a story about how her dad left her family as a middle-aged man, left them completely to go and start a career as a breakdancer. And the cool part about it is he actually ended up on TV, became pretty well known, made decent money from doing it and things like that, and is still doing it. And I think that part's kind of awesome. I think he could have gone about it a lot differently and in a lot more of a healthy way. But, of older generations in particular, I do notice that there is that whole, this is the conventional way of doing things. This is how we do them. But then living many, many years of regret, sometimes never getting to the point of trying something new, but sometimes getting to a point where they're middle-aged or a bit older and going, you know what? The rest of my life doesn't have to be the way it was. I was doing what I thought I had to do, I was supposed to do, was socially acceptable or whatever, culturally, religiously acceptable. But I don't want to get to the end of my life and be like, fuck, I wish I'd experienced some of the things I actually wanted to experience. So that's an example of a story. I've seen stories of old ladies, bless their little fucking cotton socks, going skydiving. It's never too late. And then, to bring it back to the example where I know a lot of women will be watching this video in particular, there's stories that I heard long before I created this way of coping with the age thing and accomplishing the things I want in my life. I heard many stories about women who thought that they struggled with infertility issues. PCOS comes with a lot of that kind of association, which is not the case. Did you know that PCOS, we get this fear mongering that PCOS is an infertility issue, when actually the whole reason some women evolved to have PCOS, although I think it is exacerbated by, the food we have access to these days and things like that, packaged foods, processed foods and things like that, not eating a whole food diet for a lot of people, but it's actually a genetic mutation to help the species survive. Because when we went through times of famine as a species, women with PCOS can often, not always, but can often tend to struggle with losing weight. And in times of famine where women lost too much weight to be fertile, the women who struggled to lose the weight because of their PCOS were able to still procreate and keep the species going, have children and keep the species going, okay? So if you have PCOS, it doesn't mean you can't have it. PCOS is actually a genetic mutation to help the survival of the species so that women can continue to have babies in times of famine. Okay. But there's that. And then there's also, just people trying to have children for a long period of time, even investing lots of money into going through things like IVF, et cetera, and not being able to have a child. And then when they finally give up and stop spending all that money and just release the resistance to it and accept their current circumstances, they fall pregnant naturally. It happens a lot. And it's not because they gave up. It's, a lot of people think when they give up on SP, that's when SP comes in and things like that, right? It's not because they gave up, it's because they weren't reinforcing that dam of disbelief that I'm always talking about, that's stopping the flow of the things you're inherently worthy of having. When they release that, they stop thinking all the opposing thoughts that were reinforcing the belief that it's going to be a hassle, it's going to be hard, it might not be possible. It comes in, and it usually happens pretty quickly for a lot of people. Here's another example that I can direct you to. Raw Beauty Christie, I think, is her YouTube name. She had an infertility channel for like years and years, and her partner and her just got to the point where they were like, okay, I guess it's just not for us, and we've accepted it. We're okay. We love each other. We can be happy together. Blah blah blah. And then they went on the keto diet to go on holiday. And a low carb diet has been, you can call it placebo if you want. That's a low carb. I don't do keto, but I eat relatively low carb. I feel better when I don't have a lot of sugar. It helps with lessening my anxiety and things like that. But I initially did it after being vegan for a year and a half to reverse or to try and heal my PCOS naturally, reverse the symptoms of it. And it got worse being on a vegan diet. That's just my experience. I'm not shitting on it. If that's your thing, totally fine. Then I went to a naturopath and was told to eat more animal products. And I ended up going lower carb, not keto low. And all my symptoms reversed within a few months. And I no longer present as someone who has PCOS because I don't have enough symptoms to be categorized as PCOS. So they went on a keto diet and before a holiday, and they fell pregnant, and they were not expecting it. Okay. That's inspired action. She didn't know that that's what she was doing at the time. I do think that it is possible to not change anything, but I'm also not against implementing things that I feel inspired to do in my physical world that lead me to my end goal via the path of least resistance. I'm totally fine with that. This could be something that you need to hear if any of this is resonating for you to try. Again, even if it's placebo, if it gets you there, or if it helps change your mindset enough and your physiology enough to allow those things to happen, awesome. There's people who start businesses later in life after working for other people for a long time, or have career changes. I've heard a lot when I had my first redundancy when I was in my mid-20s. A lot of people were saying to me, maybe it's a great opportunity for a career change. Is there something that you've always wanted to do, but you kind of just fell into administration and continue doing that and thought that's the way to go? And they were like people who said that they were like in their middle age years at that time that I worked with. And the job that they were in at that time was a career change for them. They may have been, I had owned a salon or worked in a salon, and then they became lecturers, and then they started to teach those things, trainers. And they thought that they were kind of stuck in the industry or career that they were in forever. And then this thing came along that gave them the opportunity to make a change that they were essentially more happy with. Other positive things about, because I know again that this is going to draw a lot of females, so sorry guys, but you might have a woman in your life that comes across the same kind of mindset barrier that you can help talk them through, right? Before people started telling women that they had an age range that they were able to have children in, they just had babies until they couldn't have babies anymore. And they continue to have babies sometimes into their 50s. And I've also read articles about how women who have, and obviously this is a general sort of thing, but women who have children later tend to live longer in life, probably because their bodies are pumping out hormones to keep them alive long enough to raise a child into adulthood where they can look after themselves, right? That's not a negative thing in my eyes. So there's plenty of people out there who have accomplished, experienced, received the things that you want to manifest into your life at your age and older. And I definitely encourage you to look up those examples. I don't encourage it to be an obsessive thing. I do encourage you to incorporate in the cheat codes so that you don't have that obsessive compulsion to continue to look at those things every day, right? See it when you have a cool, calm, collected nervous system before you look up that information. Have that as examples that you can refer to in your mind when the age thing pops up. continue to do all the cheat codes, nervous system regulation work, self-concept work, and feel good things, doing things you enjoy that are unrelated to the manifestation. And I know that a lot of you are going to feel a lot better when you do that. And when you feel good, you're on the right track. When you feel neutral about it, you're on the right track. If you've made it this far in the video, then there's obviously something that I've said that has landed. So in that case, why would you not give the video a like, share, comment, or even subscribe to the channel if you're not already? It helps push my videos out to more people so I can help as many people as possible on a free platform. And it's your interactions with my videos and my channel that pleases the algorithm to allow that to happen. I'd be so appreciated. Thank you. Again, the Now Cheat Code Academy waitlist is in the description below if you're interested in that. Also, you can get coaching with me. I've opened up more availability in my hours, just trialing them. Now that I've kind of been out of burnout for long enough that I feel like I can start earlier in the day. I've opened up my Sundays, which will be for a lot of you Saturday afternoon and night. That's probably going to shift to a Monday, which will be your Sunday afternoons and nights, depending on where you are in the world. If you're on the other side of the world to Australia. And I think I've made some later hours for the days that I already did to accommodate the time difference of the other side of the world as well. Again, it's a trial, so we'll see how I go with it in terms of seeing if it works, and then I'll continue with that if it does. It's been really collaborative in terms of the ideas that I use to create my videos on here by going on live streams either the afternoon before I record the video or before the day of recording the video. So if you do have any video ideas, feel free to put them in the comments below. That's where I'm going to leave this video for this week. Thank you for being here. You're a fucking legend. Don't ever forget it. And until next time, have a good one. I just recorded half of this video with my microphone that crapped out on me, half of it without, also I thought, and then went to stop the recording and found out that I had in fact not been recording the second half. For fuck's sake. Now I have to charge my